Good morning and welcome back to my channel. As any of you that follow me on Facebook know, I've been a little leery of continuing social media development in the business, mostly because the internet is a really miserable place. Not a lot of manners and such going on. So I figured to stay on brand that I might as well just jump right in with both feet and go straight to a controversial topic, which are side reins and or bidding a horse back. For the most part, people seem polarized when it comes to horses. They're either, oh my goodness, he should be free, don't touch him, it's cruel. Or they're, he tossed his head, oh my God, I can't handle this, take him away, sell him. So, you know, for me, developing these young horses, I feel a responsibility to make sure that they're good citizens, to make sure that there's a good chance that no matter who they end up with, anywhere on that spectrum, that they stand a good chance of having a happy life. For those that are very much the bit-free advocates, I can't argue with you. Ideally, yeah, it's great if we could all show our horses without bits, show them in a Basel, show them in a side pull, show them with nothing. That's wonderful. But having a bit in a horse's mouth actually increases the degree of difficulty of a performance. And I say this because, you know, there's a lot of YouTube trainers that like to go, oh, I've trained my horse to go bit free. Look at me ride in a halter. Look at how great that is. And personally, I think that's the easy way. Your horse has probably had a halter on most of its life. So it understands the pull on its nose, it understands a pull from a halter, whereas chances are they haven't had a bit in their mouth except for from the time they were 2 to however old they are now. This guy is 3. He just got broke out this spring. I don't know if he wore a bit when he was getting played with as a 2-year-old or not. But as far as with me, he's only had a bit on since March of this year, and he is very intermittent in how much work we do. So one of the things that I felt obliged to teach him is how to yield his jaw to bit pressure. Now, whether I'm going to the side, whether left or right or back, he has to learn to respond to the pressure of this bit in his mouth. A lot of horses I'll start in a snaffle, and I will start them in a snaffle with a side pull component like this, where it has the nose piece, so that when you pull on their mouth, right, it acts only so far against their bars and against the tongue of their mouth and against the corners of their lips before it engages their nose. That helps your horse translate the bit pressure to something they already understand, which is pressure on their nose, which they're used to from their halter. So as I said, I wanted to jump right into something controversial, which is teaching your horse to yield their jaw backwards. As far as I'm concerned, it's super important whether this horse ends up with a good horseman in his future, or maybe he ends up with a bad horseman with bad hands. He needs to understand how to give to pressure. No matter what he does for his adult job, he needs to understand how to yield that jaw. Now, if you think that side reins are to teach them a headset, you are very mistaken. Chances are, if that's your way of thinking, you are looking at your horse, you're looking at your horse wrong, and you are looking at your horse mentally front to back. Now, when we want to teach our horse a frame, not a headset, a frame, we really need to consider our horse back to front. We need to consider the engine up into the brakes. The brakes are up here. So if you're looking at side reins to teach your horse a headset, then you're thinking only about the brakes. Chances are you're going to run into some trouble in the future. So let me just turn him around a little bit so we get a little bit of the left side. Come on, buddy. And I'll show you how I hook side reins. As I said, I like the side pull with a bit. And I like to hook side reins bit, and then to the D ring on the cinch. Which, buddy? Whoa. 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 Now, as you can see, when he's stretched all the way out, his nose can still come out past the vertical. His neck, his poll can go up above horizontal, but this is where he's taking the tension out of the reins. And you might see I like the reins with the elastic. Whoa. This is because I don't want a young horse to feel trapped, as they often will with reins that don't give. Also, there are a few rare horses that are super sensitive that the elastic will get them to bounce their nose a little bit. He's not one of them. We can talk about that in a future episode. But right now, suffice to say, this tends to keep a young horse from panicking, because when they really want to elevate and they really, like, he just kind of got a little upset at the rein, he can pull and it doesn't panic him. Like, it's just put a little extra pressure on his mouth. He's content with that. All is fine in the world. I have these down here. Like I said, don't think for a second that this is about training headset, because, whoa, let's face it, this is not where your hands are. This is about him following the pressure of his jaw and giving to those side reins. So I'm going to go ahead and ask him to walk a circle. You see he's going to start to relax his neck. And the minute he does that and yields in a relaxed posture, which is suitable for his neck, those side reins, if I have them sized appropriately, will go slack. If I have them too tight, you will see that he can't put slack in them when he's relaxed and just relaxing his neck. These are right on that verge. I could go one hole looser. If this was his first time in them, I would. It is not. I want to put a little bit more pressure on him today. So you see I have him a little tighter. Another thing I want to mention is this is not something that has to be done for very long on any given day. Even my most broke horses, I won't go for more than 10 minutes. Why? Because it's not, one, they learn their lesson. You know, if it takes 10 minutes for them to figure out how to give to this, then you're doing something wrong. But two, it's physically strenuous. You have put them in a box, so to speak. While that box is not super strict, like they can elevate their head, they can drop below it, they can poke their nose out, it's still confinement. And anytime you work a horse in confinement, it's exhausting. So we don't work them too long. Older, more broke horses work a little longer. Now I've asked him to move forward in the pressure. One of the other things this does, it takes that horse that you've already started walk, talk, hand around, right? And all you've done is push, push, push. And so the reins are the brake, your legs are the gas pedal, and now we have to teach them flexion, which means they have to push up into that contact. They have to be willing to drive their hind legs forward, even when you have contact on their face. Well, that's completely foreign a lot of times to how we start them as 2-year-olds. So this helps, and this is the stage he's at, helps teach him it's okay to move up into that little bit of hip pressure. Again, that's why I like having that side pull a bit, because it takes some of that impact off the bars of their mouth. You see, he's not behind the vertical. He's not below horizontal with his neck. His ears aren't below his withers. There's all sorts of levels to his neck where he can carry it comfortably. He's just learning that if he wants to giraffe around, it's going to pull on it. If he wants to go too low, it's going to pull on him. And then if he wants to seek comfort, he needs to bring his jaw back to where that pressure is pulling. Woo. So it's not a torture device. It's just simply another aid one of the many, many, many ways you can teach a horse to do something. And yes, you could teach this from the saddle. I prefer not to, because as good as I am after 20 years, my timing is not as perfect as that inanimate leather. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm human. That is what humans do. I'm going to feel his give. My hands have to communicate to my brain. My brain has to then communicate back to my hands to release. And I'm sorry, as a human, I don't process stimulus as fast as my horse does. So it behooves me to allow these inanimate objects, which cannot screw up the timing, to do my job for me whenever possible. So that, in a nutshell, as easy as I could make it, is the usefulness of side reins. Oh, come here, buddy. Next episode, we will talk about how we can use these side reins on a broke horse to work them out of some bad habits they may have developed. I know in many cases, people do not prefer elastic. As I said, I like it, keeps the horse from feeling trapped, but it also can encourage a horse to pull. They can learn to lean on it because the pressure is so forgiving. And like I just mentioned, next time we'll revisit this and you'll learn how to use that fact to teach your horse and encourage your horse to come out of some bad habits that they may have developed.